Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. You've probably seen 1,000,001 reviews of Puss in Boots that all said the same thing and sang the same praises. Well, this one isn't any different, so buckle up because this is number 1,000,001 plus 1. From the very start, The Last Wish sets itself apart from the rest of the Shrek franchise, foregoing the once revolutionary and now fairly bland attempts at realism and rendering that have plagued the 3D animation industry, instead choosing to take a cue from movies like Into the Spider-Verse with its hyper-stylized animation and adopt a colorful painterly style to sell the fairy tale vibe. After all, the film itself tells us it's a fairy tale right as it opens. But you know who isn't part of a fairy tale? Big Jack Horner. Sure, you've probably seen all the fan art of Death on the Bluebird app, but Jack Horner is the primary antagonistic force of the movie. Jack Horner is a villain that fits in perfectly among Shrek antagonists, and by that I mean he's basically Lord Farquaad except he wants magic instead of wants to get rid of magic. They both even have a disdain for talking
fairy tale animals!
Jack also fits with the Shrek franchise as a complete and utter piss take on Walt Disney animation. I don't know if you've noticed this, but recent Disney animated movies have made a bold step in changing the formula from irredeemable bad guy to misunderstood and sympathetic villains. Encanto had familial expectations in the grandma. Turning Red had familial expectations in the grandma. And Strange World had familial expectations in the grandma. Actually, no wait, there wasn't a grandma in that one. Therefore, Puss in Boots Shreks this idea and makes not just a completely irredeemable villain, but one that revels in being a monster while trying to act sympathetic. But the funny thing is that the movie also lets you see why Jack is an asshole who wants the world's magic without trying to make him sympathetic. The simple reason? He didn't have any magic stuff when he was a kid. It's ironically the same reason I have an insatiable desire to visit the zoo. But Jack isn't the only antagonist. In fact, we actually do get a sympathetic antagonist. I don't really have much to say about them other than they have a great family dynamic and really reinforce the overall message and tone of the movie. That being, sometimes you don't need a wish to find what you're looking for. It's weird, right? A movie about wishes that doesn't go for the classic, be careful what you wish for. And I think that's what makes the movie great. Let's talk about the map. The map to the Wishing Star is the MacGuffin of the movie, and it comes with the ability to alter the terrain of the Dark Woods to present a suitable challenge for its holder. For Puss in Boots, we see his challenges are all about overcoming his arrogance, his fiery persona, confronting his lost lives, and forcing him to introspect, something that falls in line with his wish for more lives. The map forces him to evaluate whether or not he truly wants that wish. The same goes for everyone's version of the map. Kitty's is about confronting her loneliness, Goldie's is about reflecting on whether or not she truly needs a new family, and we never see Jack's, but I'm presuming it would be something more challenging than forcing him to stick his thumb in a dozen pies. The only character whose map isn't full of threats and obstacles is Perito's map, and that's because he doesn't have a wish. His wish has already been answered. He has a family in Puss and Kitty, even if they don't feel the same way yet. As a result, the map just casually lets him through with a quick and easy solutions and a lazy river. Okay, fine. It's time to talk about Death. It's a Puss in Boots review. I'll be tried in The Hague if I don't gush about how great he is. One thing I love about Death as a character in media is that they often stand in for something deeper and allegorical. In the hands of a great writer, Death is representative of something so much more than the man who yeets your soul when you die. Take, for instance, The Seventh Seal, in which the character of Death plays a major role. It's through the game of chess with Death that we can understand that death is so much more meaningful than just an obstacle, representing an awareness of life's end and the reconciliation and battle with one's faith in the face of impending doom. Likewise, Death in Puss in Boots carries a similar metaphorical meaning. While Puss in Boots doesn't question his faith in a higher power, he does have to reconcile with his faith in himself. When he first encounters Death, it's only after he learns that he's on his last life and is drowning his potential sorrows and anxieties with a glass of heavy cream. And in their first fight, as Death's sickle leaves even just a surface cut on Puss in Boots' head, it shakes his faith out of him entirely. From that point on, in every close-up, we can see the lasting scar on Puss's head, a reminder that his faith is shaken, and that he isn't the legend he thought he was, something that he hasn't reconciled with, even in the face of death. When Puss has a panic attack, it's because he's unable to confront his own mortality after years of unearned arrogance. And yet, in the final confrontation with death, when he learns to place his faith not in his status as a legend, but in the bonds and relationships that helped him grow, we no longer see his scar, as it's covered by his hat. And it's this covering of the scar that signals to us that the legend has died, replaced with a Puss in Boots that's the same, but different. Death senses this too, completing the allegorical nature of his character by outright acknowledging he was only hunting after Puss in Boots' arrogance, and leaves. But anyway, Shrek 5 confirmed, 10 out of 10 movie would watch again.